Okay, our next technique sample is the flat felled seam. So this is going to be a seam type that's going to hide that raw edge so we don't have to worry about it fraying. It's also kind of similar to our top stitch seam in the fact that it's going to have 2 rows of stitches, so it'll be really tough and strong. You see it a lot actually in denim pants. This is actually a good time to go look in your closet and see if you can find this seam. If you own a jean jacket, you probably have the flat felled seams on it somewhere. Higher end, nicer pair of pants will usually use it on the inside leg seam. So here I'm holding my top stitch seam allowance. The problem with it is that we have raw edge. The flat felled seam, there's going to be no raw edge. The other thing with a flat felled seam, you can kind of choose, because there's no raw edge showing, you could choose which is the right side or wrong side. And there's lots of companies that actually choose this to be the right side because they like the double rows of stitching as opposed to the seam and the single stitch. So I'm gonna go ahead and do it that way where the double row is on top. And yeah, okay, so again, it's a seam, so start with your swatch. We need 2 pieces of fabric to sew a seam together. Instead of right sides, because I want those 2 rows to be on top, I'm actually gonna sew wrong sides together. There we go, wrong sides. I'm still lining up the raw edges, and I'll start, just that plain seam method where we back stitch, line up our raw edges. This time I'm gonna do a wider seam allowance. I'm not gonna do 1/2 inch, I'm gonna do 5/8 inch. Okay, here I go. Okay, I'm sewing the flat felled seam. I'm gonna line it up to 5/8 inch, and guess what? I don't have 5/8 inch on my sewing machine. So I just have to know that 5/8, it's, 1/2 inch is 4/8, and 5's a little bit bigger. 3/4 is the same as 6/8, and 5/8 is a little bit less. So it's really in between these two. If that's like tough for you, you can always get a guide to help you line it up, or you can put a piece of tape there to help you. But essentially it's in between these 2 lines, 5/8 inch. Your home sewing machine probably has 5/8 inch engraved on the throat plate because it's actually a really common seam allowance for home sewing. Okay, I am gonna back stitch, and then I'll sew all the way down. Stopping at the bottom and back stitching. Making sure my take-up lever is all the way up. Oops. There we go. And then now I can lift up my presser foot and pull my fabric out towards the back so I don't risk bending my needle. Okay, there we go. Now, next what I'm actually going to do, this is where it gets a little bit different, is I'm gonna trim one of my seam allowances to not be 5/8. I'm gonna trim it in half so it'll be shorter. So I'm gonna need some scissors. Okay, and it doesn't really matter which one. There we go. And then I'll take this to the iron, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna wrap the longer seam allowance around the shorter one, and then I'm gonna press it flat. And after I press it flat, I'm gonna come back to the sewing machine, I'm gonna edge stitch it so it stays. So I'll have 2 rows of black stitching on this side, and this side there'll just be 1 row of black stitching because the other stitching's a seam that we don't see the stitching anymore. Okay, so time to take it to the iron to do a little work, and then I'll be back at the sewing machine. And again, I want to hide that raw edge. We don't want to see it, so I'm folding it down. That raw edge is all hidden. We just have a nice, clean, beautiful seam. It obviously wants to pop back up, so I'm going to put my pins in so it stays nice and flat. This side is also nice and flat as well. Okay, I think I'm ready to take it to the machine. And again, I'm going to do an edge stitch, sewing very close to the edge of that fold. Okay. Okay, to help me sew a nice straight edge stitch, I'm going to line up this little folded part of the fabric to the inside of my presser foot, so the needle's like right next to it. And I want this to stay in forever, so I will be back stitching. Let's see if I can get you a good angle. Okay, I'm done. I back stitched. Make sure my take-up lever is all the way up. Pull the fabric out towards the back. And let's see what this guy looks like. There we go. Yeah, two nice straight lines. They look very straight, not crooked. Love it. No raw edge. Here's the inside, so clean. No raw edge, no frayed edges. I love it. So this is the flat felled seam, and I bet you can find this in your closet. Just wanted to show you a few examples of flat felled seams I found just in my family's closet. Here's a pair of men's shorts. They use the flat felled seam, kind of. This is actually a faux one because you still have the raw edges here that they ran through a serger. But here they have the actual flat felled seam for the back rise seam. So I thought that was interesting. This is actually a woven shirt for a child. And they have the flat felled seam here at the side seams. So I thought that was kind of neat. Also some examples of denim, again at the back rise, and this time they have it on the inseam, but not the outseam. So I thought that was interesting. Definitely want to encourage you to look around your closet and see what you can find.